Welcome to our last getting started video for akeytsu. We're moving on to the animation mode. If you haven't already, I'll advise you to watch the other videos of this tutorial series. I'll get you a good start. In the final video, we're going to cover the tools at your disposal to start animating in akeytsu. This introduction video will put you in the right direction so you can get comfortable with our UI and find the tools you need. It should not be mistaken for a proper animation course, however. There's lots of tutorials from users and on our webpage to show you how to more in-depth animation techniques. But follow along and make sure you are in animation mode by checking the icon at the bottom right-hand corner. Press Tab key to switch over to it quickly if you're in rigging mode. The anim bank located in your upper left-hand corner of the window is a list of animations belonging to a character. In this example, all the animations belong to the name of the character that are being used. In this case, the Cyblast Groundbreaker. Here we can see there is a jump associated with this character and also a run. Up here in the anim bank window, we have several buttons. We have our Create Animation button, Duplicate Animation button. We have our Import, our akeytsu button, which is the exported anim format for akeytsu. We also have the export anim file format and create a new folder. I'll go over these in depth. The new animation button will start a new animation, aptly named new animation. You can give this a name like intro. And with this, you'll see your character starts off at a T-pose with the keyframe at 0. From here, it's a simple case of just starting your pass and animating your character. Think of this as a take list in other software packages. Each animation has its own timeline. The duplicate animation button is very handy, especially when using later function like layers. In this case, if I want to change up a run, all I have to do is highlight the run animation, duplicate it, and begin the editing process. To use the import and export functionality in akeytsu, I'm first going to open up an existing scene that we have here. In this case, I'm going to delete the motion. I will start a new motion. From our original file format, I will take the run and I'm going to export the file to my desktop and call it run.aknm. This will export all of the keys, layers, in the file. From another file, one without the animation, I'm going to bring the run animation into it simply by pressing the import button, going back to my desktop and selecting on the file I just exported. You'll see that akeytsu preserves all keys, timing, and even the name of the animation and simply appends them to the bottom. By doing this, you can quickly transfer over to characters that may share the same skeleton but are unique in other ways. The Create Folder button is a great tool for organizing your animations. You could have several animations such as intro, idle, and perhaps an idle O2. Once this UI gets a little bit complicated, using layers will save you a lot of work. Here I'm going to call a folder called layers, a folder called idles. I'm going to drag and drop the two motions that are part of the idle into that folder. You can then expand or collapse and choose which motion you wish to edit. Deleting an animation is as simple as highlighting one or more by holding down Shift and clicking on the Delete Animations button. This will completely purge the animation from your file, so be aware that only do it when you're sure you want to remove an animation. You can, however, undo that action if needed. Many of the UI elements in the animation mode are similar to windows you'll find in the rigging mode. For instance, the rigging mode contains both the trees properties window. By switching over, you'll see that the trees and properties window also exist here, as does the picker and transform windows. We'll go over those next. However, in the tree window, you'll notice that you can still expand your hierarchy, and you can optionally select your character's objects, joints, and IK handles from this window. The Properties window lets you also define whether you want compensate scale or not, and whether an object should be visible or not. Here you can also change the target size multiplier. This means that in cases of reverse foot controls and IK handles, you can adjust them independently to their global settings. In global settings, when you go into your IK settings, you'll notice that you'll have options to size everything according to a target scene size. In this case, our IK target scene size is 0.08 millimeters. If we increase this to 1, you'll notice that we've increased all of the joint handles, or all of the IK handles together. Let's just reset that. In the target size multiplier, you can give another multiplied version of its size. By going down to 0.5, I can make it half as big, independent of all the other handles. This lets you create more visible controls that are completely customized to your rig. Compensate scale mode is a great option, but beware, it's not supported in many game packages such as Unity, so use it wisely. To disable compensate scale on every single controller, simply highlight your first root controller in your character, right-click, and say Select Hierarchy. By checking or unchecking this, you'll notice that we can turn it on or off, and you can see that the motions can change drastically. As we scrub through, this already has some compensate scale turned on and off for stretching and squashing the skeleton. The tree view, like in the rigging mode, also has the same drop-downs, where you can select Hierarchy, expand all, show all, or hide certain parts directly within the tree view. As covered in our last video, the spinner is a very, very crucial component of akeytsu, akin to a channel box or other transform dialog in other packages. The spinner allows you to keep your focus on your animation while allowing you the flexibility to move on axis reliably and efficiently. The spinner has different modes depending on what you're going to do with it. We'll go over the move mode first. In move mode, you have the option for discrete transforms, which is the same as saying snap tos. You can snap to an increment of a certain number of distances. So in this case, if I go to my spinner preferences, my discrete step is 0.001. I'll change this to 0.5, and you'll see now that no matter which way I move the control, it will always be snapped in a half step, 0.5 meters. I can also change whether I want to move things in local transform or world space mode. This is especially useful when dealing with your IK handles. Local transform aligns the axes according to the object's rotation and will allow you to push down the axes. By using your spinners, you can effectively move things in a space you normally wouldn't be able to if you had your screen aligned perfectly to an axis. In this case, front view, we can still push and pull the controller as we would need to, while still allowing us the freedom to manipulate in the viewport if needed. Moving on to the rotation modes, similar approaches apply in the rigging step and in the move modes. You have an onboard widget that will let you rotate and move as you see fit. However, with translation as well, rotations are a little bit stubborn in traditional animation packages when you get views aligned. In this case, it's very hard for me to try and grab that y-axis and move it. With the spinner, I can easily and effortlessly adjust the angle while keeping my camera in the same view and avoid the need to tediously rotate around and spin turn the objects. Once you get the hang of it, you'll never know why you didn't find a way to do this in any other package. Additionally, in the rotation modes, you have your world space axis as well. This will align the manipulator to a Y-up centered view. In doing this, you will only be able to move the object relative to world space rotation, and you'll notice that the widget will not rotate as it was with the local mode, and it will not follow the controller. Discrete step mode is also available in rotation and is more apparent when you snap to angular joints. Again, you can go into the settings mode and adjust this. There are a few other features that are unique to the rotation mode. In the case of objects like arms, when you rotate an object, you'll notice that the children fall along with it. This is expected behavior in forward kinematics mode, and because of akeytsu's unique approach to hybridization of FK and IK, you can always choose which one you want to use at any given time. One step further is the ability to isolate out your rotations. What this means is you'll be able to move a controller while keeping a child controller positionally following the parent but rotationally maintaining its offset. I'll demonstrate this example. By right-clicking on the rotation mode, you'll notice that a little circle appears right above it. This tells me I'm in inherent rotate mode. Now, when I move my controller, you'll notice that the elbow does not follow along as what expected, but maintains its rotational position. This is especially useful when dealing with things like clavicles, arms, and spines, and additionally, adjusting your neck and heads. A simple toggle with the right mouse button turns it on or off. Another cool feature of akeytsu is an idea of a pull vector. Many of us know a pull vector as an object that sits out here in space, but with akeytsu you'll notice there is no pull vector. You only have an IK position. Why is that? If you've noticed, the spinner now has an extra option. This is your pull vector rotate mode, and it differs depending how you drive it. When you right-click on the pull vector mode, your elbow will rotate around, but your wrist, that's relative to your IK control, will stay locked in place. This is traditionally how IK pull vectors are constructed. However, additionally, if you right-click and drag, you'll notice that you can also get the wrist to follow as well. This opens up a whole new avenue for easy posing. Furthermore, on our reverse foot controls, you'll notice again the UI changes one more time. With this rotation mode, we're able to swivel on our rotation point of our heel as would expected. We can also transform our foot as would expected. But another option we have is to right-click and drag, which allows us to manipulate the foot in a traditional reverse foot control. We have different levels of functionality, and with the traditional IK mode, the reverse foot allows us to adjust our knee vector. Optionally, we can right-click and turn our foot with it. Another cool feature is the reverse foot snap align. This is very helpful if you're using the foot roll. In this case, you'll notice that our IK control is planted on the ground, but our foot is actually off the ground. We want to snap align the control to the foot to make it easier to manipulate the FK later on. And to do that, we can simply press this button. Toggling it will turn it on and off. Moving on to the scale, you'll notice that scale behaves as you normally would expect it to. By dragging, pushing and pulling, you'll notice that akeytsu will attempt to scale uniformly. In addition, dragging the center will do a global universal scale. Additionally though, if you right-click and turn Tune Scale off, you'll get a much more traditional version of scale. In Tune Scale, you'll notice that the object attempts to maintain its volume along axis and stretch to compensate. With Tune Scale turned off, you'll get a much more traditional version. One more handy feature is our breakdown pose editor. This is a simple way to take two keys and figure out which key should lie in between the two of those. Traditionally, it's called a tween machine in other packages, but in akeytsu, its functionality is just the same. In this case, I have two keys on either side, but I want to insert a key in the middle, and I want to choose whether I want to favor the left or right key. To do this, I can simply insert a key by pressing the K key, and I can use this pose on anything I have selected to adjust. It will also work on multiple selections. One thing that's unique about akeytsu's workflow is its ability to keyframe characters. Down below is our Timebar. The Timebar acts as a horizontal representation of keys over time. It aids in the creation of each animation. In this case, I'll quickly demonstrate pose out a character. The Timebar always adds keys when needed. You press the K key to insert a key, and that will drive the system to auto key throughout time. You move the time slider to a frame specified, press the K key, and then feel free to move your character's controller to a new position. As stated before, akeytsu auto keys everything. And you'll notice that even though I've moved one part of the character, I only have one key. This is because akeytsu operates on a pose-based paradigm, where one keyframe equals every component's snapshot in time. This means that every character's controller exists in that one keyframe. It's as simple as understanding that akeytsu keys every controller with every single key. You can separate out controllers to different layers to aid in offsetting, but that's a bit more advanced workflow. As you can see, by creating two keys, I've automatically created an animation between the two. When I scrub past a key, you'll notice that I don't have the option to select my IK frame, my IK components, nor do I have the option to manipulate an object I've just selected. This is because a keyframe doesn't exist. By pressing the K key, or optionally in the stacker window, pressing this plus button, all objects that are animatable will be available for tweaking. Using the keyframes in conjunction with tools such as the breakdown pose editor, you'll be able to quickly and efficiently get your animation running in no time. While looking at animations, previewing your animations is as simple as pressing the enter or using one of the play buttons down here. Akeytsu always plays back in real time because of the system's lightweight rigs and skinning operations. To toggle through selected keys, you can either use the hotkeys provided, which are arrow right and arrow left, by holding down. Additionally, you can hop to the beginning or end of an animation using the buttons provided. Using this workflow, you'll get very comfortable by allowing your hands to lie on the arrow keys for next previous keys, which allow you to adjust frames and positions of object components. Using arrow down keys, you'll be able to easily and effectively adjust your character's animations using the hierarchy step keys, the spinner, and the Timebar hotkeys to quickly A and B poses. The Cyclemaker automates the creation of your cycles. From a handful of keyframes or from your first step, you can easily generate complex walk and run cycles. This accelerates the creation of any animation cycle and provides the flexibility to modify existing ones with a neat cycle side function to replicate changes from one side to another. In this case, I have an animation where I've only generated half of the walk cycle. I haven't completed the final contact pose for the opposite side. Akeytsu will do this automatically. This is because when you generate your skeleton, things are perfectly mirrored. Results may vary if you haven't mirrored your skeleton identically or with asymmetrical components. However, you can see that it is quite easy. By creating this plus button, I can generate the additional keys necessary to mirror the opposite side of my run. I've now created a full run cycle, and additionally, I have the option to finalize the loop. That's as easily done by going up to the stacker and pressing on the Add Loop Key mode. This will add a final keyframe that mimics the very first keyframe. Everything put together, you can see the run is perfectly mirrored. In this case, you'll notice that some of these controls were not mirrored properly. This is because even though they had same name, they existed on either side and were mirrored accordingly. To tweak sides of your motions using the cycle editor, you don't have to regenerate the keys every single time. You simply pick a side. That side now takes on the changes. But what about the opposite side? While still on this side, simply say mirror side selected and update. Now, what you'll notice is your opposite side has taken on the exact same mirrored transforms as you did in the first half of your animation.